What's up? What's up? What's up? What's going on? That thing looped a couple times. All right. What's happening? What's happening? All right. Welcome to part 3 of the So I Was in This House podcast for From Prison to the Trades. And the last 2 episodes were absolutely fantastic. The engagement has been really good. The post engagement after the live stream has actually been really good too. So really happy about that. And I've gotten a lot of messages from people that were like, yeah, it was pretty cool. So I enjoyed them. I thought the stories were meaningful. And in the last one, there was a gentleman by the name of Jay. And, Jay had said that, if he just like affects like one, he said, I don't care how many people watch. He's like, if I affect one person during the course of this episode, this is all I really care about. And so this isn't really a motivationally charged podcast. It's really about stories, but it's part of the journey, right? And, these people took a wrong turn and then they, made a right turn. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on our 3 guests here. I'll let them introduce themselves. And, really these guys, came from, an incredible panel. There were a lot of people that actually submitted that actually wanted to be a part of this and had I probably got somewhere in the vicinity of like 100 messages from people saying, their story. And when Andy called me, which I didn't know his name was Andy until today, by the way. I thought his name was Andrew. I thought it was Andrew.
Same thing.
Yeah, I thought it was Andrew. He was like, "Hey man, you got to talk to Dirk." So I was like, really cool. And then Jason had called me, and then you guys kind of know each other, and it was a whole like sort of thing, like super cool. Really happy that you guys actually, we kind of connected. Hey, what's going on, Danny? We got Danny in the chat here. Hey, Susie. All right. So, Dirk.
Yes, sir.
Who are you, man? Who are you? And tell a little bit about your background, and then kind of why you're on here. What kind of trouble you got yourself into.
Yeah, so Dirk Nauman, I'm a content creator, but I also serve the industry as a applied technical support guy and third-party integration for controls. So on a lot of commercial jobs. So with the tech support calls, I had to start scratching my head like, man, these guys really don't know what the hell they're doing. And so with that is how I created the HVAC simulator. And then we're on our second startup company called Visual 3D Academy. So that's what I do for the industry. So my story is quite interesting, I suppose. So I did learn HVAC in the institution. I did serve 10 years in a federal prison, but it was just a matter of me not knowing how to deal with emotions. And so therefore I turned to drugs. So all of my felonies are drug related. And so with that, in the prison, I thought that it would be, I had before going into prison, and this is not what I was pinched for, but I had a very large indoor cultivation. And I wasn't going to leave prison broke. I was definitely going to be broke, but I wasn't going to be broke for long. So I started taking HVAC so I could grow better marijuana. And with that, when I was released in a halfway house, I said, I'm going to give life a fair shake. With that, knocking on every contractor door, they would not hire me. I did find a company that did hire me, did give me the chance. And with that, I just excelled, got that first job, and I would have done anything. First in, last to leave type of attitude I had, and I was going to give life a fair shake. And with that, life has done a full circle. All these contractors that would not hire me, now I'm training them.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
That's amazing. So federal. So was it intent to distribute, or it was just like a repeated thing?
Yeah. So my drug of choice was methamphetamine. So went through a divorce and started hanging out at the strip clubs, and got addicted to meth instantly. And it was a year and a half. It took me down. It was one I always tell everyone meth was a blessing for me because it took me down quick, very quick. Whereas in the other drugs and alcohol, it would have been a 30, 40 year prolonged, takedown. But because of the methamphetamine, it was quick. And,
When you say took you down quick, you mean like took you like you were done for the night, or like took you down, like sent you to jail quick?
Oh no, mentally broke me down, body breakdown, mindset, my thought process, and just the addiction itself. It took me down, and what did lead me to prison. So the 10-year prison was possession of pseudoephedrine is what my charge actually was. But I was just a drug addict. I didn't know, how to cook the stuff. I was just a drug addict.
Wow. Dang. Well, we'll bring it on back to you. Andy, what'd you do, man? How'd you end up on the podcast?
So I'm Andy. I own a company called Mega Cooling in Southwest Florida.
I love that name, by the way, dude. It's so cool. Like Mega Cooling.
Yeah, my wife's a scuba diver, and she goes for Megalodon teeth. So we incorporated that together. Yeah, it's really big around here. But I started at a very young age. First time ever getting arrested, I was 13. I had a strong arm robbery. Got arrested by the FBI. And it really FBI. Yeah.
Wow.
We went into a Ralph's grocery store and stole liquor, and the guys tried to stop us, and we beat them up with the liquor bottles, and it was a whole thing. And it didn't really stop until I was about 26. That was my last sentence day. And once I was in there, I got a job as a plumber in the prison, and that plumber was a steam fitter also. And I worked on all the ice machines. And right when I got out, I didn't incorporate that. I bricklayed for a while, and I hated that job with a passion. And then Dirk kind of took me under his wing, and this is where I'm at today.
So you actually, that's fine. So you learned so Dirk, you learned HVAC in the big house, and Andy, you learned plumbing.
I learned plumbing and steam fitting. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And Manitowoc ice machines. We had a lot of those.
Manitowoc, you know what that's famous for, right?
No.
Ice.
You don't know what Manitowoc's famous for? It's like
I know it's a town in Wisconsin or something.
Yes, it's a town. You're not. That's not where you were. You weren't in Wisconsin.
No, I was in Illinois.
Oh, okay. Never mind. There's a double. Yeah, Manitowoc was like that. There was like this murder. How to make a murder on like Netflix. It was like this big thing.
Oh yeah.
Supposedly of this guy that didn't do it, right? Like they didn't do it, and then you watch, you're like, oh my god, they put an innocent guy in jail, and then like you like find out like, no, he probably did it.
Right. Yeah.
Jason,
what's up?
You tell me, bro. We got a good view of your floor before. That was pretty cool.
A little while. I'm still learning how to mess with this stuff. So,
are we on the interwebs?
Jason's the only innocent one here, I think. Right?
Yeah, I was definitely.
Jason's here because he's like a part of the circle, but he's like his real secret is that he escaped from prison, but not even getting to go. He almost got there like 16 times, crashed his car, all sorts of stuff.
Well, I did crash my car. I sent you guys the picture of that. So I got into drugs early on. I'm from a little tiny town in Arkansas, and there's not much to do other than drugs. So that was like, I started working early on. My family's always been in the trades. I have my dad and brothers and I did cabinetry. An uncle builds houses. Another uncle and cousin are plumbers. And so anyway, I got into drugs early on. I always had a job, so I always had money. I always tried to lean towards what I wasn't supposed to do. And I didn't get caught for a long time. So what's crazy is I didn't end up going to jail until after I first got into recovery. So I had it's crazy. My story about that is nuts. I had a bad car wreck. And it took 2 more years before I finally got sober. So the year I got sober, I went to jail 3 times that year. And it was the 3rd time that my wife left my ass in there that
There it is.
Yeah.
That's the car.
So
Wow.
Look at that.
So
I can't believe you lived, man.
So I was actually the passenger in that car. A buddy of
wow.
mine was driving, and we flipped end over end for 350 feet, is what the police report said. And I stayed in the car the whole time with a seatbelt on. He
Mm.
went out the windshield, and I woke up a couple months later in the hospital with a thing helping me breathe, and I'm tied down to the bed. And
Mm.
it took 2 more years after that car
I
looked
was
like that before I
gonna
got
ask that.
sober.
Just going to ask that
So
if you learned your lesson with that accident.
no. Actually, the cool thing about my story is jail actually worked for me. Okay. I went 3 times the year I got sober, which was 2012. And the first couple of times, my wife bailed me out after a few days, and I just resumed my life, went and hung out with, a bunch of people that were using drugs. And the third time, she left me in there. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore.
Man,
Um,
you're the
it was
coolest
scary
dude.
enough. Well, it was scary enough for me because, like you mentioned before this whole thing started, all the guys that had been in ADC, Arkansas Department of Corrections, could not wait to get out of county jail. They
Mm.
were ready to go back to prison. And I'm like, I don't ever want to say that. I'm done with this stuff, man, because I'd been going to recovery meetings for about 2.5 years up until that point, and I didn't work my first step till I was sitting there in jail and going, I don't want to be here.
Who's the dude in the hat with the sunglasses
That
there?
that's me. Up for a couple of weeks, and I'm wearing sunglasses about 2 a.m. in that picture. And I thought I was real cool. Somebody took my picture. So
You were, dude. You were balling, dude.
I was
Balling.
mad. I was messed
Lady
up,
killer.
man.
Hey, who's this? Who's that guy? Dirk, that's a good picture, man. That looks that's a good picture, Dirk.
He had
Yeah,
a
that,
full head
that
of
was
hair.
that was 6 months homeless, 6 to 9 months homeless on the street there.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Holy smokes.
yeah. So with that, there's no rhyme or reason. I was in federal holdover, and in the middle of the night, the guards came and said, "Hey, someone posted your bond." And you know, with the
Wow.
meth charge, you didn't get out back in the day. I don't know what it's like nowadays, but they let me out of jail, and I just walked out, and I didn't have anywhere to go. So I lived on the streets of St. Louis. Had nowhere to go.
Who posted your bail?
Nobody. We
But
still
you-
don't know to this day how I got out. The guard said bail post, and away I went.
Wow.
Wow.
So you don't even, dude. Do you think about that? Like, do you look back at that moment, and be like, that's like a sliding door moment. Like, it's like I could have gone one way, I could have gone the other way, and I went the wrong way.
Oh no, absolutely not. I never thought of that. As soon as I was released, I was back at it again.
Wow. Who's this guy?
Yep, I haven't changed much. My look.
Yeah, buddy.
I don't know what I was thinking in that, but I just didn't. I was a nut when I was young, so I didn't care at all.
So what's funny, guys, is that what we're looking at is a mugshot of Andy, and he is smiling like as
That
if,
was in prison too. That wasn't in a county jail because that's yellow.
oh my god.
Oh man.
He's smiling. He's literally smiling like he just won the lottery. That's
So
great.
so that expression there, that is what a person has when they get transferred from county to prison. That's the expression.
And that might have been what it was. I don't
Mm.
know, but obviously I was happy
Ramen
about
noodles
something.
are 13 cents a piece now instead of 98 like county.
Yep.
Oh, look who showed up. It's Jen Manzo. Hey Jen.
What's up, Jen?
Hey, Jen.
What a day, Jennifer. Yeah.
Every day is a what a day for her.
So
I'm still
guys,
waiting for my phone call, Jennifer, from yesterday.
oh, we're not going to air out all this stuff right now about the things that didn't happen that we're not happy about. Let me ask you guys something, because all you guys, I mean, got yourselves. Dirk, you said something before, kind of perked me up a little bit here. You were talking about you were not regulating your anger, you were not regulating your emotions, you were not. I guess you weren't emotionally aware or intelligent. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so in my household growing up, and this is no knock against my family, this is just the way old Germans families were. You didn't talk about emotions. So as a kid, if I was crying, it was like go to your room, figure it out. And so I never learned how to deal with emotions. Never. As a kid growing up into high school, even into, my trial marriage, it was, if something happened, it just, you didn't talk about it, you forget about it. And so, but with that, maybe I was the person that needed to talk about things and no one was ever there to listen. Who knows? But, I resorted to drugs and alcohol to suppress a lot of things in my life, a lot of things. So when, when my marriage was falling apart, I resorted to, harder drugs. The emotions were much harder and I needed better drugs to be able to suppress it and deal with it, forget about it. And so, but it was not until the incarceration where I learned, how to deal, to express my emotions in a healthy way.
I can agree with that too. I think the only emotion I had when I was a kid was anger. I lost my mom at 12 years old to suicide. And literally right after that, I was 13, and that's when my crime spree started, and it was just based off of alcohol and drugs. I just didn't want to feel, and that's what took the feeling away. And, every time since then, I would get out for 6 months. I'd get back on it. No rehab would take me because I wouldn't stay. And it just went on until I was about 26. That was the last time I was locked up. And I found recovery in prison, and that's like Dirk just said, that's where I kind of figured out how to deal with my emotions and talk to people and get a support system, all that stuff.
You know what?
It's
I
weird
wonder,
to do that. Yeah.
You know what I wonder? I wonder if, because I have friends that have been, locked up. I actually, dude, my ex is dead because of drugs. So like, I totally, I understand it. My question is this: when you're in the moment and things are going on, like, do you kind of know in your head, like, are you thinking to yourself, like, I'm gonna get popped? Like,
I wanted to sometimes. Like, I was like, I'm either gonna die or I need to go to prison. And I was accepting of the prison because I didn't want to die, So like, that was like a blessing to me. At sometimes, then you're in there, then you're pissed off that you're in there because you get a little clarity and you have to go through all the withdrawal and all that. But at the time, you're like, either I'm going to die or I need to go to prison. That was because rehab wasn't an option for me. It just wasn't.
What was the turnaround time for you guys? Like, where in the journey, like, when did it, like, so like, was there a specific event that happened where you were like, bam, like, holy shit?
Mm-hmm.
All right. What was it?
I guess I'll go.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was 26. I just got caught. I was going to rob a crack house. I kicked in the door. Crack house was no more. There was nobody else there. All there was a little flat screen TV. I stole it when the house was being watched by the police. So I come out.
My gosh.
Yeah, that's just my luck. I come out.
That's terrible. All you got was a fucking TV.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so bad.
They didn't get me right then. They got me at 4 a.m. So we were already did our drugs, high, asleep, and they came in the house, got us at 4 a.m. Well, I did my time in the county jail, and I was up for sentencing. I took an open plea of 4 to 16 years. Well, the judge gave me 15 years. And I wasn't upset about the time. What I was upset about is that I knew I had drugs in the drop ceiling. And I'm like, fuck, I'm never going to get those now. And that was like my moment of clarity. Like,
wow.
What are you thinking, dude? Like, you're deep in this, and that's all you're worried about. You don't give a shit about the time. And I had a young son at the time.
Damn.
All that. But all I cared about was that I had heroin in a drop ceiling at a drug house.
You were not going to get to you, but that's what you think about.
Yeah. And that was kind of my moment of clarity at that point. Like, are you kidding me, dude? And then from that point on, I tried to just better myself while I was in the institution. I didn't get involved in the fights, the gambling, all the BS that goes on with it. I just kind of kept to myself and hung with the winners, what I thought were winners, but
Yeah. What about you, Dirk?
Yeah. So
you turn it around, man.
The moment was at a AA meeting. And so we called his nickname was Shithouse, and we called him Shithouse because he was doing federal time because he blew up a porta potty across state lines. And so
that's fucking cool, man. What are you in for? I blew up a porta potty.
Yeah. So he got the nickname Shithouse, and he's in the HVAC industry. And so, but with that, he come to me. He goes, "Hey, you got to come to this AA meeting. You know, they bring in these outside guests, and you know, it's hilarious." So I said, "All right, sure, why not? I got nothing else better to do."
You said this AA meeting is hilarious.
Yeah, so he's in what's called the RDAB, Residential Drug Abuse Program. It's a program in the federal prison system, and with that, it's so I went there, and this guy, it was a speaker meeting, and this gentleman was sharing his story. He was a best job ever as an alcoholic because he was a garbage man back when they rode on back of the truck, and no one could smell the alcohol on top of him because of the garbage smell. And so, but he sobered up and became CEO of a software company, had cancer. And then when he was talking about that, he started talking about the brotherhood of AA. My cat really wants to be involved in this. So
your cat can get, your cat can be involved.
So he started talking about this brotherhood, the friendship of AA. And at that moment, that's what I realized, that I didn't know how to be a friend, and I did not have a friend. And that was the one thing that I was missing in my life. I never had a friend, never. And I'm probably 31 at this time, 32 at this time. And so
never had a friend growing up you played ball with in the neighborhood, or
we can call them friends, but you know, but there's always alternative motives to my friendships, even as a young kid.
Was it like the user mentality kind of deal, where is that like
absolutely
entitlement mentality? It's entitlement. Like, I feel like you need to give me all your money just because of who I am. That's how I used to think.
I'm going to ask a tough question. Do you have to be, is your life different now, or do you have to be cognizant about it now? Like, do you have to be cognizant that like that is a habit that you grew up with, or is it like gone?
Oh, no, it's definitely not gone. No.
Definitely not. It's something I've got to work at each day if I choose to. I choose to work on it. Now that I'm aware that I was the problem, the drugs were just a symptom for me. So I kind of like what Dirk was saying, like I had been escaping from my own feelings. I didn't grow emotionally because I started drugs early on. I was probably 10, 11, 12 whenever I started looking for things more than alcohol. And I had an older brother that used, and so I knew where to get things. He never gave it to me, at least my first couple of times. He always, you know, I knew the people he was hanging out with, and they had little brothers that were my age. And so I gravitated towards that. And when I took drugs for the first time, I escaped from all my feelings, all the things that were bothering me. And it became my best friend. I was like, man, this is awesome. I don't have to deal with my dad. My dad was pretty hard on us. He was military. His dad was military. And I had 3 older brothers that always wanted to tell me what to do. So I always had these people telling me what to do. I never felt good enough. I was not into sports. I wasn't good at video games like my brothers. They would only play versus me if they wanted to win easily. So I just didn't feel comfortable. And when I found drugs and alcohol was the first one. I mean, I was little when I was stealing it from my parents. But I felt free, and I loved that feeling. I didn't have to feel good enough for drugs. I was good enough. And I was around people that made me feel okay for the things that I was doing. And I loved that feeling. And I didn't want it to go anywhere. That was like my only escape in a day, was to sneak out of my bedroom and get high. Yeah. That's the only time I felt comfortable and in my own skin. Yeah. And so that kind of led to me always wanting to be that way. And
that's so weird you say that, because on the last episode, somebody said something about serotonin and what the average, thing that you do in your life that's happy, what it floods your brain with serotonin is. It's like, I don't know, 100 parts per million or whatever it is. But they were talking about like one hit of crystal meth is like 100 times that amount. So you completely, and for everybody, it's a little bit different. Like for some people, yeah, like I have friends that are like alcoholics, like and that's like their thing, and they feel like you said, like free. And so do you guys still kind of? I guess the chat's pretty busy. I'm gonna show up some comments here, but do you guys real like? Do you still feel like you are fighting it every day, or do you feel like you're kind of past that and you're just like you're good? You still get urges. You still are kind of like, nah, it's been enough time.
I'll jump in on that. I don't. I continue to tell myself who I am. I am a drug addict just because I'm not using. My recovery is very foremost in my life. If I'm not aware of that and the behaviors, it's not the drug or the alcohol that was my problem. It's the behaviors that came along with it. And if I'm constantly aware that I can still act on my negative character defects. I can act out in those if I choose to. So I keep it with me all the time of recognizing I don't think about drugs or alcohol as an escape anymore. It just doesn't come into my mind. The only time I really talk about it's when I'm sharing my story or I'm at a meeting and we're talking about that. Part of the steps for me is recognizing that I've got to practice those principles in all my affairs, not just in the part about drugs. Like I said, I learned in recovery from others who came before me that I was the problem. It was what I chose to do about these situations.
Yeah, it's like the symptom, not the problem.
It wasn't the drug.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved the drugs. I mean, I loved them all. I didn't have a drug of choice. It was I wanted more, and whatever you had, how can I get more of that?
How can I get more? Susie Dunn says, I spent 15 months on a 3-year in Texas. I rode my bunk like a punk. Read books and worked. Made trustee day 1 in prison because warden needed AC fix. Cool.
Yeah, but it's go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, yeah. So I HVAC brings you into some sketchy neighborhoods on service calls. So when I go to those sketchy neighborhoods, I always have that passing thought, like I would know where to go get dope in this neighborhood. That's just a passing thought I have. Every time I go into one of those neighborhoods, but there's no urge to go out and buy heroin or any of that stuff anymore. No, just because I learned how to live sober, and that was hard for me. That was really hard to learn.
Dirk seems like he's really organized, like he's really focused. Like I feel like he's like, man, I don't even think about it anymore.
No, I'm as I listen to Julian and Andy, I'm just like, God, you guys are smart. You guys got it, but and Everett, you brought it up, does it change? No. So, Julian kind of hinted around with the behaviors, but it's the thinking. If you can think correctly, then you're going to act correctly and you're going to, and you're going to feel correctly. So it's, the behavioral modification is getting your thoughts under control, and then your emotions are under control, which dictate your behaviors. So, if you're going to exhibit bad behaviors, what is the root cause? It is your thought process. And, if you want to think about being angry, you're going to find reasons to be angry. And so, that's why, I belong in a 12-step program. And that's why I continue to go to 12-step programs, because I know once my thoughts can go wild. I get these racing thoughts, and whether it be a passing thought or whatever. And even though I'm very much an alcoholic and a drug addict, but it's the crystal meth that I absolutely enjoyed the most. And with that, I don't know where to go to get it. But if I go to the bar, guess what's going to happen?
You're going to try to find it.
That's after 21 years of sobriety.
That's not trying to find it. You will find it. I mean,
yeah.
Wow. I wouldn't even know where to start. Like if I went to a bar, I'm just grabbing some booze and that's it. I don't, every once in a while somebody comes up and goes, hey man, you want some, but HVAC checks. Jennifer, I'm just plugging HVACinrecovery.org. Okay, so those listening on audio, HVACinrecovery.org. If you want to donate, please visit the website. And if you want to know more about this super important cause that means so much to Dirk Nauman and I, feel free to reach out. Yes, very good. I'll also say, Jennifer, it does not surprise me that you're involved with another organization. I mean, come on, it's insane to me. HVAC in recovery. I guess that's you. Didn't know that. I will say one thing that I'm so Jennifer said something here. It says, she said crime is, she's all caps here. Crime is typically a byproduct of poverty.
I don't
Not
know any
here.
rich dope fiend.
I
I
don't
know that.
I don't know if I agree. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, because and I'll get a little personal here. So many people that know this, like my ex, she's dead, and she grew up in the Beverly Hills of the East Coast, and I'm talking like influence and wealth beyond we can even understand. And it didn't take more than a few years to, there's only so much that you can use people, and you can go down the rabbit hole, and you can, and ask daddy for another this, and ask, so-and-so for another that, before it's like, hey, we can't do this anymore. And then you run out of resources, and you run out of people, and you run out of people to use. And then, and then the next thing you're really down a rabbit hole. So yes, I think that crime is a byproduct of poverty, but there's no shortage of crime in areas that are not necessarily poverty stricken. If anything, I've seen lots of people that I know that have come out of poverty and are trying to make themselves. And part of that, I think, is an awareness right now, especially on social media, of people who there's just lots of motivational stuff for anybody wanting to get out. And there's so many resources that were not available to guys like us that grew up in the 80s and 90s. Like, you literally, like, the internet wasn't a thing. You couldn't look up inspirational, like speaking and all this and see stories like this. You just couldn't. So it's a positive thing of the internet these days, but I digress. Brandon Stowe says, desperation, trauma, and chasing the rush. These are powerful stories. You should all be very proud of making it out of a bad deal. Jennifer says she's proud of you guys. Danny Mose says, I applaud all three of you gentlemen, all for putting in the work and changing your lives. Three amazing men in the industry, and thank you guys for not only contributing to the trade, but also for sharing your story for everyone to learn. Susie. Okay, so Susie says, I struggle with imposter syndrome due to my past. As anyone else? Yes, Susie, all the time. And actually, I'm going to plug a friend of mine who also has a very popular podcast, and he has also an organization called Close It Now, and he's an HVAC guru, and he's amazing. He's running an event in Boston. His name's Sam Wakefield. Ironically, we were talking about this before. His last episode of his podcast talks about this, talks about imposter syndrome, and I was actually talking about imposter syndrome with Tersh Blissett not too long ago. So, guys, I have a couple. Before we go forward, I gotta give it out. So, obviously, you guys see the logo here. I'm sponsored by Cooper and Hunter. Cooper and Hunter makes amazing HVAC products, ductless mini splits, VRF, and they've prepared this really cool video that we're gonna watch.
Cooper and Hunter's new peak unit runs efficiently up to 19 SEER 2. With BTU capacity that ranges between 18 to 55,000 for indoor and outdoor units. Compared to a traditional gas furnace, Peak's revolutionary design is ready to step in without a hassle, thanks to its adaptive multi-voltage. True high-performance hyper units provide a 100% heating output at -13 degrees. Looking inside the unit, the new M-Coil is highly efficient and provides a better airflow that reflects in a higher static pressure. Our Smart Kit is included, giving you access to control your device from the comfort of your phone. Peak stands for powerful, efficient, auto voltage detection, and quiet. To learn more, visit our website or talk to your local distributor. Cooper and Hunter, addicted to comfort.
Cool, thanks for that, guys. Any of you guys find a deeper meaning throughout all this, like spirituality, dare I say religion, God, if you will? Any of you guys find that in your journey?
I'll jump in there. So I was raised in a very strict religious upbringing, and I wanted really nothing to do with it for a long time. Even though I had some belief systems that were similar to those around me, that was another thing that fueled the drug use. When I got high, I didn't have to deal with any of the stuff, the shame, fear, guilt, and remorse of the things that I was taught and told that I was. So anyway, I'll say that to say there was a time in my life that I decided that I was going to stop using drugs for the first time, and that's when my wife got pregnant with our first child. Um, in about 6 months of finding out that she was pregnant, I had started a Bible study and I decided I was going to stop using drugs. And I stopped everything but the alcohol because, in my mind, I heard heroin mentioned and meth. Those were my two favorites. Okay. I didn't understand or know heroin till much later. I didn't try anything like that until after the first time I supposedly got sober. I just stopped everything, all the illegal drugs except for alcohol. And I was in a very continuous Bible study, and it helped me with change things about myself. And I didn't understand that I was an alcoholic as well. So what I was doing was telling myself, okay, God's okay with me because I'm not sticking needles in my arm anymore. I'm not dropping acid on the weekends with all my buddies and all the things we were doing. But my drinking got worse and worse. Okay.
You're still trying to subsidize the.
Yeah. So, but I didn't recognize it because alcohol was not the thing that drove me to. I mean, Dirk said he loved meth. I loved meth. Meth was one of my favorite things in the entire world to do. Sleeps for pussies. That was our motto. So, whoever could stay up the longest was the coolest kind of thing.
By the way,
Hey, how many days you got? I'm sorry, Everett. How many days?
How many days did I stay up?
Yeah, longest.
22.
I have 30. That was my goal. That's the goal I set when I was in math.
Shut up.
Whoa.
No sleep.
22 is the most I ever made. And
Without actual sleep?
They made me
No sleep.
No sleep.
No sleep at all the way through.
No.
I got 3.
No.
Are you guys fucking?
I only did it once. Beth.
Hey, Everett, that's normal, dude.
Third day was great because that's when the shadow people come out and you start really getting. I tripped more off lack of sleep than I ever did off mushrooms and acid combined.
Hallucinations are the best with sleep deprivation.
Well, my first time doing meth was the only time I ever did it. I stayed up for 3 days, saw shadow people, and I was like, I'll never do this again. So I went to the downers.
So are drugs demonic?
I think so. I mean, I have.
This came up on one of the other episodes that they believe like drugs are actually demonic. That they are like they invoke demonic spirits. I don't know. I'm just saying it doesn't.
I think it can open yourself up to that. I mean, you look up the Greek word pharmakia.
That's right. That's
where pharmacy comes from. Yeah, that means basically demonic control and possession and things like that. So, I mean, that's why they call alcohol spirits, man. Think about that.
Brandon says my face is the same as yours, Everett. I'm like, what the fuck? You can stay up for 30 days? That's insane.
Well, there were 3 of us, and that was the goal.
Wow, 30 days.
Holy shit.
I don't think I'd be hanging out with somebody for 30 days.
If you make it 22, what's the difference from 30? Sorry, Andy.
Yeah, it's only an extra 8 days of no sleep. Dude, I can't even go like 24 hours before I'm completely bonkers. Like that's insane. Actually, this is funny. So I was looking for a book. So I read a book, and the book was actually recommended by Jennifer, and it's by Stephen King. It's called Sleeping Beauties. Okay. And it's all about literally like these women that cannot fall asleep, or they basically get into a coma. It's the craziest thing. I would highly recommend it. It talks a lot about sleep deprivation and everything else. So
it's terrible. It's terrible.
Okay. So we've covered sleep deprivation. Dirk, Andy, do you guys find like religion or God or anything in prison, or is it part of your life? It's not. I'm just always curious.
Andy, you want to?
Yeah. So when I was a kid, I grew up in a very loose household. Like I said, I lost my mom young, so my dad raised us, and he tried the best he could, but we didn't have to go to church, no God talk, none of that. So I never really had it. Once I got out of prison the last time and I started going to meetings, I found spirituality, and I looked at the meeting as my higher power, because I figured if I throw all my problems on the table, that we can all fight them together. The people in the rooms were my higher power. And then eventually it led to me believing in God. And having a better understanding of my higher power. You know, once I figured out how to learn life, all that stuff. So mine's not too in depth, but that's where it's at.
No, it makes sense. It was just kind of a simple question.
Yeah.
Like, I found it, or you didn't.
Yeah. So, born and raised Catholic, and I am a good Catholic boy to this day. But through the trials and tribulations, it was somebody mentioned to me, if there is no God, there is not any right or wrong, because what's morality based off of? And so if there's no God, there's no right or wrong. It's a matter of opinion. So using drugs, this is how I justified everything, the drug uses and, you know, the things, the stealing, the lying, the cheating, and everything I did. So with me, it became a matter of, and I claim I didn't know God, but when I reflect back at that moment, it was a matter of obedience for me. I really truly knew that what I was doing was going against the way I was raised. So, but I had to find a way to justify what I was doing. And so that's how I justified it. By there is no God, there is no right or wrong. It's only me. I serve, you know, the universe serves me. And so with that, it was a matter of obedience. And so, yes, when I got locked up, and it was April, and it was the Sunday right before, or when I got locked up, whatever day I got to the federal prison, it was the Sunday right before Easter. And so I went to the service there, and, you know, but I still chased drugs when I was in the institution. I still did everything, but I started getting that connectivity back, and it was more of obedience than belief.
So today, is it a belief, or is it or is it a belief, or is it
no? So religion, the way it's defined in the 12-step program, spirituality is to save your ass. Religion is your personal relationship with your higher power. And so with that is, I know there is a God. I know that. So it's not a belief. I know. So
yeah, I speak about it in the same way, and it's not sometimes a popular subject, but I feel like there's all of a sudden in the last few years, this crazy awakening. I think it's partially to do with COVID. All of a sudden, like, everybody's talking about spirituality. Everybody's talking about God. Everywhere you look, it's like crazy. I mean, I've never seen it in my life, the amount of engagement that there has been with people and trying to engage. And sometimes it's hard, man. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes shit goes wrong, and you're like, fuck, why?
I think I heard this saying one time: spirituality is for people that have been to hell. Religion is for people that don't want to go to hell.
I like it.
Is that the right saying? I think that's what it was.
Yeah, it's close, man. Let me pivot for a second here, guys. So, and this is a tougher kind of question, because and because I've worked for organizations that will not hire you if you have a criminal record. They just won't do it. What would you say to a company? What would you say to employers who will not hire guys with a felony record? Now, I want to preface this, guys. The repeat offense, you guys are the exception, not the rule, right? You guys realize that, right? Like, how many repeat offenders that you know that you were in those bathrooms with, that you were in those trailers with, that you were hanging out with back in the day, right? That are back in, that never got out, or that got out,
or they're dead.
Or they're dead. So the repeat rate's pretty bad. But what would you tell an employer that won't hire you if you have a felony record?
Can I share a quick story?
Yeah.
It's about Andy. So I'm the one that introduced Andy into the trade. Andy, I'm going to say he was a little nervous when he was going to go talk to an HVAC contractor. And we went into this contractor, and he didn't know my story. But I told Andy I was going to share my story. So Andy's with me, and I share, with my 4 drug felonies, my prison time. And so with that, the response was, well, my dad was in prison. I used to go to prison to visit my dad. And this HVAC company was founded based on a alcoholic father, the other spouse, because he couldn't get a job because of his alcoholism. So he started an HVAC company back in the 50s, and is still around to this day. And but here's what it is. When I hear that employers will not hire felons, and I am on a subcommittee that talks to employers about hiring ex offenders. And with that, is that we can overcome that obstacle. There is a stigma that goes with ex-offenders, and with that, we can overcome that. But they need to be educated just like everything else, just because they have this false knowledge of who we are and what we do and what we stand for. I mean, so
but you got to kind of take it case by case, right? Because if you have a guy that right, there has to be, like, how long is enough time that's gone by, right, when a guy gets out? Or look, for me, if I'm the employer, I'm looking at the guy and I'm looking at you. I'm making a decision based on you specifically, right? I'm not going to make a blanket policy that says no felons. I'm going to say, Dirk, what happened? Where are you at in your life? What's going on?
That's what we get out of the employer. Sit down with them. But, I have to put my neck on the chopping block for that to happen. I've done it many times.
So I'll say, can I jump in for a second?
Yeah. Please.
No, you can't.
No.
So anyway, what would I tell an employee? I'm not here to tell anybody else what to do. I've learned in recovery that I can share my experience, strength, and hope, and I'm not here to tell anybody what to do. I'm grateful that the gentleman who got me into the trades allowed me to come in. He knew my story. I met him through his girlfriend who was in my recovery group. So she introduced me to my employer. He brought me to the courthouse or to wherever I had to pay my fines every month. I didn't have a car. When I started, an HVAC basically helped save my life, is what I want to say, is because I didn't know anything about HVAC 12 years ago. Now I own a company, and it's because some guy gave me a shot. He said, hey, you're willing to work hard? I mean, I remember the first week, he was like, kid, you don't know anything about heating and air, but you know how to work your ass off. I will train you if you want to learn this. And then he got a little nervous and scared because I was in recovery. Like I got out of jail and I was hitting recovery really hard because I got rid of all my friends. I didn't have a phone, I didn't have a car, and I didn't have a job. Well, I got into HVAC and I got really strong and heavy into recovery and working on myself. And I will share my story with anybody who cares to listen, but I'm not here to tell another contractor that he should or shouldn't hire one. I'm just grateful that one hired me. And so now that I'm a business owner, I will hire people that are felons, but I do take that into consideration with my customers. There are some offenses that would be frowned upon, but I do it case by case too. If this person has done it, because I always told somebody, that's what I did. That's not who I am. I'm not the same person I was when I was using. And that's the truth. I think of life differently. I learned a different way. I learned how to deal with, like Andy was saying, I learned how to process those emotions. Dirk said it too. I didn't know anything about my emotions or how to act or not act in certain situations because I was loaded all the time from 12 years old on until I got clean. I was high on something. Now I found a way of dealing with problems, and that's what Dirk was alluding to, the steps. Those steps are spiritual principles that help me make better decisions if I choose to use them. I don't have to use the spiritual principles of the 12 steps at all, but I choose to. And because I do, and because I base my decisions off of those spiritual principles, I make better decisions today. So that's just what I did, not who I am.
Yeah, and I'll kind of touch on that a little bit too, is that you have to own your past. When I went into job interviews, I was scared to death to tell them anything about me because I was like, immediately right when they find out.
Don't they train you when you're in prison in the correctional facility? No, they tell you like
there's no skills that they help you out with. But just be honest with them, and you're going to get an ounce of respect whether they hire you or not. But once you own what you did, and you say, hey, that was just like Jason said, that was me then, this is me now,
Yeah. I think somebody else said that. It's like, just be straight up. Hey man, spend some time in prison. I'm out. You know what I mean? Like I'm trying to put my life back in order.
And you're going to get doors closed in your face. It's just going to happen.
So it's like, you just got to you just got to deal with it. And it is what it is. Some people are going to say, okay,
up the records of your past. That's it.
Dude, you guys know Weldon Long, right?
Mm-hmm.
Weldon, you heard of Weldon Long? This guy spent 13 years in prison, right? I knew the guy that actually hired Weldon Long. Like we became friends. Unfortunately, he passed away of COVID a couple years ago. It's crazy. But I met the guy that hired him. That he walked into his office and Weldon's like, "Hey man, I need a job. I got out of prison. I need a job." And the guy, and now Weldon's writing books and talking around the whole country. And yeah, Dirk is killing it. Dirk is killing it. Teaching skills in prison right now. So let me ask you this. Speaking of teaching in prison and looking at everybody and their mistakes and what they've made and everything else. Dirk, I'll start with you, man. Biggest regret, biggest mistake.
Yeah. So when I was arrested, I had my 2 kids with me, and there was drugs in the house. To this day, I do not have a relationship with my 2 kids. So, but I did fight the battle. I did not surrender my parental rights, but after I was out of prison and with the circumstances, it was the last gift that I could give to my 2 biological kids. So, and it was a gift, and I was able to meet them, and they told me this is what they wanted, and I was going to act like a man, cried like a little girl, couldn't even hold it back. But yeah, that is, I put drugs and alcohol before my kids. And so, but, God has gave me a wonderful life now. I was able to, I am a dad to Ethan. I don't know if he's on this. I sent him the link, so hopefully he's on here. Let's see if he's man enough to post something in the chat here.
Do you get a chance to even communicate with your other kids at all? Like,
no,
nothing. Do you get to see him on social media, at least growing up and all this other stuff?
I do creep, absolutely. Yeah, but I made a promise to my ex-wife that I would not interject. I would not interfere. And even though they are, one is, 28 years old, 29, is that, I want to be a man of my word and my promise, and I'm not going to interject. They know I exist. I apologize and ask them for the forgiveness, and, I have to turn it over to God, and I'm not going to interfere. I told them that day that I will not seek them out. I will not look for them. But yes, I do creep. Absolutely.
Do you think? Do they know that you've done a complete turnaround? That you're successful. That you've created amazing things. That you teach. That you do that. Do they know this about you? Is there any?
They have. If they go to social media, obviously they're gonna, see the awards that I receive and what I'm doing. But Jennifer,
is it their choice? Like at this point in time, like,
it has to be now. Has to be, yeah.
But I'm saying if they reached out to you, you would have no problem with being like, hey,
I would cry like a little girl again. Absolutely. They are always welcome, and with my current family, if they call, they know I'm gone. I'm just gone. I will go wherever. So, but yeah, no, that is the big mistake that it's something that I cannot repair. And being an HVAC technician, we have a lot of gifts in being able to fix things. That one is totally out of my control. So
it would be nice if I feel it for you, man. I'm actually, it was very rare during this course of this is like episode 55 or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. I don't really get like very emotional. This is a very emotional moment. I thank you for sharing that. I'm gonna pray for you, man. I know I feel like it's one of those things where I got kids, and like I would hope in the future, maybe it'll take a long time, but I would hope in the future that maybe they make the choice of, establishing something with you and seeing that you're completely different. And I hope that for you. I pray that for you.
Man. Thank you.
All right. You gonna follow that, Jason? What's your biggest regret? Biggest mistake?
I've made a lot of mistakes. I don't know if I can pinpoint the biggest mistake, because I feel very, very blessed, and I feel what's pretty cool about my recovery group and the different ones, I got a chance to repair a lot of relationships that a lot of my friends don't. The last 5 years of my dad's life, he saw me sober. So I got a chance to reconnect and rekindle that relationship. I still am married to my wife,
oh, wow.
which I don't know how. She is an amazing person. I don't know why I really don't, because The shit that I put her through was not acceptable in any chance, and I shouldn't have one. And I've got my kids. I remember though, you asked earlier on, and I don't want to dip back too much, but this was huge for me, is I was at a point when I went to jail and I finally had that moment. I'd been in recovery for 2.5 years before I really worked my first step, and I did it right there in jail. I remember going into the cell. I'd been there long enough that I got up off the ground and I actually had one of the four bunks that I could stay in. And I hoped the guy didn't come in that was sharing the little cell with me because I was crying. And I remember at that moment asking for help. That's where I started a spiritual journey, because I asked for help outside myself, and I remember feeling the relief. And from that moment on, my recovery was not dependent on whether I got to go home to my wife and kids, because I didn't know. I had no idea. She wasn't answering the phone. She wasn't answering letters, but I knew that I didn't have to use drugs again. And that's when I started my recovery and living daily, asking for the strength not to pick up and not to do those things. So I wasn't okay with it, but I was at a place in my spirituality and in my recovery that even if I didn't get to go home, I knew I didn't have to use drugs again. And I was okay with that. I had no control over their choices, my kids, my wife, people in my life.
You just had
And I was
you just had
okay.
to do the best you could, and then hope that they would accept that, and you could mend things. And
I was no longer doing it on my own. I had strength from a power outside of myself to give me the strength to make better choices if I chose to ask for it. And at that moment, I got God on my side. We're the majority in any situation. So even if I don't have a wife, even if I don't have kids, even if I don't have this stuff, I can be okay with that relationship because I'm not trusting in my own strength. The cool thing is, because I started living that way and practicing the principles, being honest, I learned how to be honest.
That was
I
a
didn't
tough
think of
one.
I learned how to be honest with
Mhm.
myself. That's why I say I'm a drug addict. I'm an alcoholic. That's an honest statement. Just because I don't take it in anymore, I've learned a way to deal with it. But those behaviors are still there, and the thinking is there. Dirk hit it on the head when he said it's thinking. Because I heard in the rooms early on, it's you don't have a drinking problem, you've got a thinking problem, kid.
yeah,
You're thinking about this situation wrong. And I'm so grateful that I'd had a few years of in and out of the rooms, that when I was ready to make that first step of admitting that I was powerless over it. I mean, I love the term powerless now. That is one of my safest places to be, is if I'm powerless. Because if I have power, I don't need you. I don't need God. I don't need the meetings. I've got it myself. I learned that I was not in control. And if I'm powerless, I can ask for help outside myself, whether it's the group, like was mentioned
well,
earlier, whether it's God. I can get power outside of myself, and I'm not in control of anything outside
you
myself, and
know,
that's safe for me. That's
there's
safe.
a danger. And Andy, I'm going to get to you. There's a danger in that though, because and I agree. I totally agree. Complete submittal, right? And totally makes sense. And my mom used to say something all the time. She said, "God helps those who help themselves." So, and
Yeah,
here's my
absolutely.
thought on that, right? There's that parable where it's like the guy's like, he falls out of his boat and he's in the water and he's swimming and he's like, God, please, I pray, please come save me. And like a log comes like floating by and he like lets the log go by. No, God, come save me. And like a boat comes by and then the boat goes, come on, grab my hand. And they're like, no, I'm waiting for God. And then he drowns and he dies and he goes to heaven and God says, well, what the heck happened? He's like, I prayed for you to come save me. He's like, yeah, I gave you the log and the log came by. I gave you the boat and the boat came by and you didn't grab it. So it's like, you got to know when to grab God's hand. Right.
Absolutely. So,
And I
well, to
totally get
jump,
it. Like that's the faith versus works versus I mean, I totally get it. And I do know that it, like in your, I'll let you say, but I'm guessing like he kind of works through you to move the action. Right.
and works through others. And so I do have to do my part. That's the whole thing about recovery. It's not a foxhole prayer or I'm sick and drunk again and I'm praying to God to get me out of this bad situation. God's going to help me, give me the strength, but I have to do my part. My part is being honest, showing up, doing what I say I'm going to do. It is doing all that I can do. But what I meant by staying powerless is when I'm in a situation and it's out of control,
Yeah, right.
I don't have control over anything other
Anybody
than my
else's
choice.
actions, anybody else's thoughts. Yeah, exactly. Totally.
Anybody's
understand.
action or inaction, whatever they choose to do or not do, I still don't have power over it. So I can be okay even if chaos is going on around me because I'm not in control of that. I am in control of what I choose to do about the situation. And that's where I find the strength is, man, I can watch people I see it every day in my job. I mean, I run, sometimes it feels like a daycare running a business with different people's stuff, but I don't have control over their choices. I have control over my choice and what I choose to do, and that's basically it.
Hey, Andy, I felt Jason, man, that was ripping straight from the heart, man. I appreciate you, man. You got a lot of love here in the chat. Andy, what's your biggest regret, man?
I got a few actually. I think my number one is that my dad didn't really get a seat. I didn't really get a show him that I was successful and make him proud. So I got out of prison January 9th, 2018. He ended up taking his own life April 23rd, 2019. But that sucked, because like I've only been out a little over 7 years, and it's just been a roller coaster of success after success after success. And the only thing he got from me was a degenerate scumbag from
I think
8
he
years
sees
old.
you, man. I think he sees you.
I know, but it still sucks because he was, he was my
Not
friend,
here.
all that good stuff. And the second one I think would be just being a shitty father to my son. He saw me just grow up in prison, and that's it. And now we're friends. I'm not, I'm his dad. I try to be a father, but I just wasn't there his whole life. So we're just mainly friends.
How old is he now?
He's 18. So he's going off to college.
You guys talk at all? You guys are.
We talk every day, all that good stuff. But it's still, I just didn't get to be there for all the, successes, the dances, the, achievements, the whole deal. And, that affected him too, not just me during that. So those are my two things. Yeah.
I want to say I got to go backwards a little bit here because this is, and by the way, I asked this question this is the third episode. This was by far, I'm emotional right now, guys. So and I'm truly happy that you guys shared. I want to say something to Dirk. Jen said Dirk is the whole industry's dad.
Big daddy.
I think that goes to show you do have a lot of people that you're entrusted in their their advancement, their growth. And even though there's carnage in the wake, you're doing everything you can move. You can't go backwards. You can only go forwards. And whatever you're doing, you're doing amazingly. She also says she had a daughter. She cried for her daughter in jail so hard, and she was only there for 5 days. Props to you guys getting where you go from there. Susie says, great show. She loves this series. Hey, Sam Wakefield's in the chat. I have one last question, and this is not really along the same lines, but it might evoke the same sort of response. So the one question I always ask in every episode, and for those that have watched it before, you'll know this or listen, this. What is one experience, one interaction? I like it to be with a customer, but it can definitely be with an employee. It can be with a coworker. Okay, what's one experience that you've gone through that lives with you, that wherever you go, you carry it with you, and it's like a backpack, you wear it?
I can go first on that because I remember it clear as day. So it was the first job I got in HVAC. I just got a van. I worked there for a few months, just got a van. They're like, hey, go do a clean and check on this house. I'm like, all right. The guy's standing outside. There's 50 cats outside. He's like, hey, I just got off vacation. People just dropped all their cats off here. Can you go inside and see why my furnace isn't running? I'm like, yeah, no problem. I go inside. I'm not lying to you. There's a 1/2 inch in the basement of just nothing but cat piss. And I feel like I was like, I got to do this. I'm fresh at the job. I got to go in there.
You're swimming. You're
swimming in cat piss.
You're wading in cat piss.
So the switch on the furnace is all rusted out. So I'm like, hey, dude, you gotta change the switch. I got a shirt over my face, everything. So we get it fixed. horrible. I go outside, I'm covered in fleas. I literally roll in the grass. I get all the way down to my boxers, rolling in the grass in front of this guy. And from this day on, if you have more than 3 cats, I'm probably not coming in your house. Period. Just not going to do it anymore. That traumatized me.
No,
Just,
come on.
It was,
you got to have
there
like
had to be
like
150 cats in there. The guy
you got to have like a 6 cat, you know what I mean? Like at least a 6 cat minimum.
If I smell cat pee when I walk in your house, I'm probably not going in.
You should go in. Those people have money, man.
I'm sure they do, but they can
They
keep
have
it.
money,
They can
bro.
hire somebody else. That like I've never had. I was
I'm
infested
telling you,
with fleas.
You're walking away from all the money, dude.
Yeah. And that guy still lives in Peoria. I'm sure that house is still there.
Oh man. What about you, Jason? What's one experience that lives with you, man?
One experience that lived with me?
Oh, do I have to skip you, man? Dirk is ready to go. He's like, bam.
Get Dirk, and I'll think of something good.
Come on, man. Come on.
So Andy, I didn't know about that. If you told me, I didn't.
I never
remember.
told you that. Yeah, that was horrible.
I don't remember.
That was
So, but mine is also a cat story. I am a cat lover, and so this is directly across from Peoria Players. It's where the theaters. There's a house over there, right across up the hill, and so nice neighborhood. And so it was an after-hour call, Christmas Eve after-hour call. And the lady's alone, and I go in there, no heat call, and like I open up the furnace blower. So I'm gonna stage this a little bit, but someone, you know how they cut a hole in the side of the furnace and they got to draw air out into the other room. So they put a collar on there, and it was a round pipe into the other room. So when I open up the blower cavity, there is a cat in the blower. Yeah, so like, oh crap, how do you deal with this? I have to go tell this lady that her baby is dead. And oh yeah, so I'm oh my goodness here. And it's Christmas, all right? It's Christmas. And so oh yeah, so I have to get this cat, you know, like first I said, hey ma'am, sorry. I have to inform you that your cat, your baby is no longer with you. And you know, the tears coming out, screaming, and so I had to get this. Obviously, I got to get heat. I had to get this cat out of the blower cavity, and then
what's the task code and the charge for cat removal from blower motor?
But hang on there, yeah.
Cat removal from blower motor.
There was no charge. There's no charge. I didn't care. There was no charge, and my boss was a good Christian man. So anyway, but we get the cat. What are you going to do with the cat now? It's Christmas. I'm in central Illinois, so the ground's frozen. What are you going to do with it? So this is the lady's baby. And so, you know, this experience made me see what the HVAC, and this is fresh out of the prison, by the way. This made me see that I was a hero, I was human, and that I made a difference in the world. With that, we had to go bury the cat. She had a shovel in the garage. We went out, we buried the cat. We had a ceremony, and you know, I hugged the lady, total stranger, but it made me feel human. And so, yeah, that was probably my most memorable.
How long had you been out by then? Was it a while? Had you been out
6
for a while?
months, less than a year.
So it was pretty fresh after you got out.
Oh yeah, yeah. I was running service calls while I was in the federal halfway house. I was employed while I was living in a halfway house.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So, but yeah, and then you know the other one's not as memorable. But
I'm gonna name that story "Cat Funeral." I'm gonna cut that part of the story, and we're gonna call it "Cat Funeral."
But then
blower cat funeral.
Yep. And the other one is I got a call, and I had to help a gentleman get his 6-foot red-tailed boa out of the ductwork.
Ooh.
Oh, exactly.
No thanks.
We have a bunch of those down here in Florida, and I like watching them. I don't go near them.
Right. But this was his pet, so. But anyway, but the cat was most memorable.
All right, Jason,
so
you got one or what, man?
It has nothing to do with cats. So sorry, guys.
All right.
Well, you don't live in Peoria, so.
Yeah, well, so one thing that has stuck with me and I carry with me every day is what I carry into every customer is it's an HVAC story, okay? My wife and I bought a house. The The people we bought it from didn't know anything much about it, said it was fairly new. It ended up being about 17 years old. I didn't know anything about it. My HVAC system dies, and the guy just changed the box. Okay. Everything was wrong with my HVAC. My ductwork was laying on the ground, uninsulated, not even screwed together. My return was right below my attic fan. So it's sucking all the hot Arkansas heat and humidity out of the attic into there. And when I had problems, I didn't notice this because he changed it out the very end of the year, end of the season for cooling. And I didn't notice it till the next summer when it was 85 degrees in my house, and I never could get him on the phone to come back and fix it. And I lived with that for a while. And so I carry that story, my bad experience with an HVAC guy. The price was the price. I would have spent way more money with him had he told me my ductwork needed to be replaced. I needed to move my return. Because he didn't, and I had to suffer for 4 years until I got into HVAC with a bad install, a bad situation. Now I sit down and I go over every option with customers to make sure they have the right information because I suffered for years with that. So that's something I carry with me is when I'm in front of a customer, I'm going to give them solutions that I know are going to work. They'll either choose me or they won't, and I'm totally okay with it, but at least they have the information. So I don't think I'll ever forget that bad experience of buying a brand new HVAC system and being pissed off that it was 85 degrees in my house. Arkansas is very hot and humid. Not as bad as Florida, but it's pretty bad.
It's pretty hot. It's pretty hot. And do they have air conditioning in Arkansas yet?
No, but
I love
we
Arkansas,
barely have,
dude. I love Arkansas. Yeah, you got all your teeth. Man, Hot Springs, man, went up there, dude. It's beautiful up there, man. It's really cool.
Yep.
Guys,
Can I leave with something before you close us out?
Oh yeah.
About guys coming in to try to pursue the HVAC career.
Yeah.
Just don't stop. I got 8 when they did a background check when I opened, because Florida's super hard to get a license down here. They do a rigorous background check. I had 8 pages of just felonies, misdemeanors, the whole deal. Don't give up. I mean, you can break into this industry. It doesn't matter who or what you are, or what you've done. It's there. I mean, and this industry, I've been out of prison since 2018. I bought 2 houses. I moved across the country, got married, acquired stepkids, the whole deal. And
you say that like you bought a business. I acquired some stepchildren along the way. By the way.
Yeah. I should have said it like that.
Great acquisition.
But anyways, they're awesome.
The investment has paid off.
Right. The investment is paid off of just believing in myself, riding on people's coattails that are already in the industry, because they will guide you too. There's a lot of assholes in this industry, but there's a lot of more good people than there are assholes. And I figured that out too. So just keep going at it.
I love that. Let me do this as we're gonna wind it down here. This is my final ask of you guys. What would you tell your younger self? And I've loved these answers from the previous episodes. Like straight up, some of them like nuggets that I will carry with me forever. And I'm just going to give you one of them. One guy said, I would tell myself very seriously, be careful who you associate with. The guy did 15 years in prison because he believes that he made the wrong associations with the wrong people, that he hung out with the wrong people with the wrong ideas. And, he became, the average of the 5 people that he surrounded himself with. So I'll start with you, Andy, since you just kind of went through your little final.
I would just tell myself to excuse my language, to calm the fuck down. Because I was wild as shit.
Just chill the fuck out, bro.
Just chill out. Stay at home. Don't go trying to fight everybody and take over the world when you don't have a pot to piss in. That's where I was at. I just didn't care about consequences. A consequence was of no consequence. And if I could have just, paid attention in school, just done something other than run the streets, I would have probably not, but I don't, to this day, I used to have, somebody said about imposter syndrome. I used to have that imposter syndrome, but I just look back at everything I've done in my life, and that's where I'm at today. And my life could have been totally different. I don't think it would be any better or worse. I have no idea, but that's where I'm at. And, that's just, but I would just tell myself to calm down, because I was just angry, violent, running the streets, and that's just what I did.
What about you, Jason?
I would tell myself that sleep is very important. Um, but I would also tell myself that keep an open mind. Your dad does love you, even though he's hard on you, and give him a break because it's tough being a parent. Because I'm a parent, and it's not as easy as I thought it was when I was a kid. So take it easy on your parents and pay attention and shut up.
What about you, Dirk? Close us out, man.
Yeah, so I'm going to take a different approach on this. So, if my God did not put me on the path that He put me on, whether it was self-induced with my thoughts, whatever, if it was a choice to go talk to my younger self to tell him anything, I would turn that offer down. Because of the gifts that are bestowed upon me with my drug addiction, and it is a gift, my alcoholism, and the people that I have helped right now. I have to believe that I'm helping more people with the path that I've had. So I would not want to change the course of my life.
But you might tell yourself something though. No, you wouldn't tell yourself.
If I was thinking, let's talk to, the emotion. Because if you remember in the beginning of this is that, I had to keep everything else. I had to keep everything in because I didn't know how to express myself. But yeah, open up and talk. But, I don't know. I can't begin to tell you how great my life is right now. And I would not want anything to change that course. If we go back in time. So I'm just happy with it, and that's one of the things that drives me. And I was reading one of Jennifer's comments. I forget what it was about me helping, what I do, why I do it. With my drug addiction, I guarantee you, with the cultivation, everything I have done, that I have deaths on my record. I don't know who I killed, who, whatever, but I introduced drugs to grade school. I've done a lot of things, and again, I don't know what the revocations are going to be, but I have that on my conscience. So the only thing I can do to atone for my sins is help other people. And this is a call out for anybody who wants to get a hold of me. They want to talk about the drug addiction, their alcoholism, what it's like to go in a felon, what the obstacles there are, and if you're serious, if you want free education, give me a call. I will do whatever I can in my power to make sure that you have the opportunity to change your life and will not cost you anything. So that's when I stand in front of the pearly gates, I got to atone, and that's what I have to do. And that's why I am driven to do, because it's changing lives.
Wow. Well, the question, I guess that was answered. Danny Molzay said, can I ask a question to all three of them, being where you are today? Would you go back and change your past? And I'm sure you probably would change your past, but I mean,
I wouldn't, because like I said just a minute ago, that's the only reason I'm in the spot that I'm in now. Wow. If my past would have been changed, I would have been on a totally different course. I have no idea where I'd be, but I'm happy in my life today. We had to go through the bullshit that we had to go through to get where we are. And now we're we have an opportune position to help people that don't have to go through the bullshit we went through, So absolutely not.
Right on.
Jason,
right on.
Would you change anything, or would you tell yourself something?
No.
There you go.
I'm definitely
man.
I'm your answer.
Huh?
I said, isn't that amazing? With all the shit that we've been through.
I think that's one of the gifts, like you said. We're in a position to be able to offer experience, strength, and hope to others. So maybe they don't. I was not smart enough to gain knowledge from other people. I had to go the hard way, and because of what I've been through and what I know now, man, I don't know if I would have learned that any other way.
Well, I'll tell you what. There's Susie in the chat here. She says she would tell herself to invest in Bitcoin.
I would have too. I would have done that.
Hey, come on, guys, come on.
John Whitehead
John Whitehead says you all make a beautiful difference to so many. Keep on keeping on. So very, very good. Danny says 3 amazing.
Love you, Johnny.
Well, if anybody comes to Florida and you guys want to go scuba dive for megalodon teeth, let me know.
I do actually. So if you want to reach anybody here, We got Andrew Nelson, Mega Cooling.
Yep.
We got Jason Julian Heating and Air. And Dirk, do you want people to reach out to you on HVAC Simulator or?
Yeah, HVACsimulator.com. Absolutely.
HVACsimulator.com. I'm going to tick that here. HVACsimulator.com. Very cool. And guys, I can't thank you enough. I think this has been an amazing episode. I'm going to make just a quick announcement, and I'm going to get you guys off stage here. Thank you guys so much. Seriously, I think this was like arguably the best episode.
Yeah, thanks for letting us come.
Yes,
Dude,
thank you.
So great.
Right on.
Awesome, guys. Thank you guys so much. So really quickly, Thursday is the last episode of this series. Susie, I really appreciate that you have enjoyed this series. I did this exactly for that reason, to, to have the discussion to reach people. And so I really appreciate you tuning in and everything like that. Thursday's the last episode, and I've been doing 2 episodes a week just for like the next 4 weeks, and then that's it. I mean, I'm not going to do it anymore. But it's Catherine Howard. Some of you know her on Facebook as Catherine Elizabeth, and she's the CEO of Lee's Heating and Air, and she spent 3 years in the federal penitentiary. She turned her life around. She's the CEO of the company. She's an influencer. She speaks keynote around the country. She's incredible. She travels all around the place, and she's an inspiration. So she's getting her own episode. How's that? Really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for sticking around. And really, the engagement has been amazing. Share this out, and please, guys, please, if you can, okay, it helps the ratings. Everybody that has reached out and everybody's been a part of this show, they've really enjoyed it. Give a like, give a rating, give a 5-star somewhere, whether it's Spotify or Facebook. I don't care what it is. YouTube be great. Really appreciate you guys so much, and we'll see you next time.